Hey everyone, it's Docfire. Welcome to Docfire's Down and Dirty Reviews. If you're looking for unbiased reviews on Autococker parts and markers, well, you've come to the right place. Because I have to buy this stuff out of my own pocket. Anyway, enjoy the show. And if you have a good time here, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Have a good one. Hey everyone, it's Docfire. It's time for another Docfire Down and Dirty Review. Today's review is going to be on the 2020 Dye Autococker parts. For those of you that don't know, is in early 2020, Dye announced it'd be coming out with some Autococker parts. Specifically 4 things. They were coming out with a new regulator that is not only for autocockers, but they were kind of targeting that market. The Dye Hyperlight 3/4.5 regulator. I did a review on this already. Go check that out. Additionally, they have a feed neck that I know that FreeFlow is utilizing, and I know FreeFlow is utilizing their front pneumatics that I have here. I don't have the feed neck here. I don't know what size adapter you need, or if it fits like the Inception Designs or the Empire feed neck style or the Planet Eclipse feed neck style diameter, but we'll have to check on that, and maybe I'll put something up in the notes. But anyway, the things we're going to talk about today are their 2020 pneumatics, their LPR and their new 3-way. And a little bit kind of a key thing is in May of this year, I pre-ordered these from an online retailer, and I just received them here on December 18th, yesterday. And I figured I'd do a review on them. And so it took a little while, and it's not Dye's fault necessarily. It's the COVID-19 obviously has been a big slowdown for any products coming out of overseas, or even materials that are needed to make stuff that we don't produce here in the U.S. So since these do come out of Taiwan, out of I think Dye's factory in Taiwan, they were having a little delay there, which is understandable. All companies are having the same issues, so you cannot knock them for the amount of time it took for these to get released. It took a little while. So anyway, so they're made in Taiwan. The packaging, real quick, is they have a little fold card that goes over, and then they're in this kind of harder plastic. We'll talk about that later. I don't really like talking a lot about packaging or anything, but let's go over the 3-way. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Hopefully I'm not going to have too much glare. Try to get my light in there so I don't have too many shadows. So the 3-way. The 3-way is 2 pieces. You have the 3-way body and the 3-way shaft, actually like 5 pieces. You have 3 barbs. The barbs appear to be either stainless steel or brass nickel plated. It's hard to say. And they're a 2-barb, so they have a nice grip on your hose, and they have a decent size hole in them. I can get up there in the decent size hole. Sorry, the fingers are dirty. I've been doing a lot of work. I'll try to wipe off any fingerprints. You gotta look at. There are some milling marks. If I were to kind of grade the quality of the anodizing, I get a little rag here and wipe off my fingerprints on it so you can kind of see. It's all right. Get there. You can see the swirl marks, the swirl milling in it, in the side. A little disappointed on that. The finish on them is maybe you can see a little bit better there. The finish is supposed to be a gloss black. I think it's not one of those deep glosses. It's a matte gloss, a semi-gloss, I guess. Actually, the 3-way shaft seems to be more polished than this. So that the finish is it's okay. The black is a true black. It isn't a purple black and anodizing, so they're using good dyes, and it's a nice dark color. So on that aspect, it looks pretty nice. The 3-way shaft itself is a 3 O-ring style. Up into view. 3 O-ring style, and they are 3 proprietary O-rings. They're not metric like Inception Designs. And it's my understanding that these 3 O-rings are the same O-rings that Dye uses on their solenoid on the electronic guns, like the M3 or whatever. and I went on their web store, Dye's web store, and they're $1 each. So if your O-rings go bad, it's $3 to replace your O-rings. Kind of expensive in my book, but they are proprietary. They are the O-ring grooves. So I get my glasses out here, and I'm going to look here a little closer. The O-ring grooves are, if I can get up in here, just get it in focus. There we go. And they fit in the O-ring grooves. They're nice. They don't slop back and forth, so that's nice. There's nice milling there. There's no, down here, there's no wrench flats on the back part that screws into your three-way shaft. I do know it's 5x40 threaded, so it's the same threads as the Inception designs. There's essentially 2 threads out there for Autococker 3-ways, 5x40, which are the fine thread, and then 6x32, which are a little bit more coarse thread. So I know this is a fine thread, and I think it's a 632 set screw that they do not include. So there's not an included set screw in here, which is kind of, disheartening on it. I kind of wish they'd put like a nylon set screw at least to provide that friction force. You don't need to lock them down super hard. You want to have them locked down tight or just snug enough that this is not going to turn on its own. And then I usually use a little bit of Loctite, a low strength Loctite on the set screw to keep it in place. You could use Vibratite on the shaft and negate the whole set screw in essence, because it provides a friction fit as long as you don't lose it. At the end of the 3-way, if I can get up here, you can see it is hexed at the end for adjustment. And so it takes a 5/64 Allen to do your adjustment. So it's just like the Inception designs, but I don't know what I think the Inception designs uses the same 5/64. So let's see. Yes. So it's a 5/64 adjustment screw for the end. And my biggest concern on this, so actually two things on the shaft, is that proprietary O-rings, which, Dye really likes to do that to us. If you remember back in the day, Dye's original pneumatics and 3-way, and the mysterious, are they 006s or are they a metric on their shaft? Yeah, it's always kind of a challenge. When these leak and you can't find the O-rings, and you're basically screwed. That's why I have a hard time, especially on an autococker, where the 3-way spools are exposed to the elements. They have a greater potential of getting dirt and paint in there, and you may tear up an O-ring, and you may have to replace it while you're out there. So I don't really like that. If you are going to use these, I recommend going and buying a couple sets of extra O-rings. I'm going to take these off and measure and see what I can come on the closest metric one for it, and hopefully find something that will come close. We'll see. They may be a completely different style. Maybe more like a disc style. So anyway, so let's move on to the body. The body is it's got 3 barbs. Like I said, there are 2 barb on each barb, so they're going to do a nice tight grab on the hose. You have a kind of a space. I'm going to zoom in here. You have space for an O-ring if you wanted to put one there to just do a little friction fit. Some people like that, some people don't. It's personal preference, I think. Like I said, the milling on the flats here on the sides, you can definitely see where the mill ran across that, and it just doesn't look that good. They could have done a little bit more post-processing on it, in my opinion. I get it in you see the circle there. And it's on both sides, front and back. So all the other milling looks good. It's just these flats, and then the gloss is not that much. So one of the things that Dye talked about is when they came out with this, is they came out with a different way they pass the air through the barb or to the body to the 3-way. They kind of changed the dimensions, not a different way. They changed the dimensions of the port, and we'll look at that. I'm going to open these up, but actually I don't have to. I have a drawing I'll be able to show you. So you have obviously your inlet, and then your your two outlets, one to each side of the ram, depending on if you're using a hinge or a slider. And then you have your exhausts. And you can see these, get up here, these in holes here. Exhaust, there's 1, 2 on the top. And then if you look at the side, see those little holes on the side? There's 1, 2 on the bottom and 3, 4. So there's 3 exhaust ports on the front and 3 exhaust ports on the back. And when you take the total area of each one of these holes, and that's the total amount of you add that area up, and that's the amount of area that is allows the air to exhaust. So it actually 3 smaller holes will equate to 1 larger hole. And it's a really good way to control the diameter, or not the diameter, but when this O-ring doesn't have to pass a giant hole, it just has to pass a really small hole, and so it can lock up or seal up on either side of that hole a little easier. If it was a larger hole, it would need to have to pass that full hole. And so, what is the throw on this? Well, how far do you have to move this to actually operate? Quite frankly, I'm not going to go into that. The 3 manufacturers or the 4 manufacturers out there, Dye, Inception Designs, ShockTech, and Palmer's, all work really well. They all have their pros and cons. I can't talk about the Dye. The Inception Designs, ShockTechs, and Palmer's all work really well. They all have their pros and cons, the positive and negatives. And quite frankly, they're all really short. All right, they're as short as you can possibly get without affecting the end run. So I'm not going to go through. If you guys want to measure that, have at it. I've done it, and I've really realized it really doesn't make a big difference. I kind of like a longer trigger pull. It's nice to have a very conservative timing that's tight. If that makes sense. But anyway, so in that aspect. This will operate like any other 3-way out there. There's always claims that there's on their 3-way shaft between the O-rings, the diameter of the material is left still pretty thick. And the idea is that when the air comes in and it shifts over, it doesn't have to fill up that chamber. There's less of a chamber for it to fill up. And so it's essentially going to switch quicker. And I don't know. I haven't tried it out. We'll see if that works. In theory, yes. In practicality, do you actually notice a difference? We'll find out. I don't. Quite frankly, when you're out there and you're rattling paint at someone, you don't notice the difference. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. Everyone's going to have their opinion, and they're entitled to it. So, if we look at, and I'll bring up a little diagram here. So, this out of the way, this here. Here's the 3 holes, right? That's the center barb, and this is the 2 outer barbs, and this is the exhaust, and there's obviously 2 more on either end. A total of 3 exhaust ports. And what Dye did is Dye, instead of having a standard hole where the larger of this circle, this outer area is the threaded area, and the inner area is the port. What they did is they oblonged the port. So it's the same width as this hole, but it's just machined into an oblong. And so it allows more air to pass. It's less restrictive. Okay, so technically if you have more restriction, it's going to take longer to have air pass through there. You're going to need a higher pressure to do that. And it potentially can slow things down. In an autococker, yeah, okay. You may notice a little bit, you may not. But like I said, I haven't tested this, so I'm not going to say the claim is not true. Let me do some testing on it. But that's the theory behind it. But the interesting thing is, this is a very interesting thing, is on a 3 O-ring 3-way, the O-rings need to pass and seal up when they move forward and back past the center hole, so past this hole right here. They need to pass that one. They never pass the two outer barb holes on a 3 O-ring design. Okay, what they do is they pass the exhaust ports on either side. And so what happens is as this, I don't have a good colored, maybe I can use this straw here, and I'll draw some O-rings on here. Here's an O-ring here. You can see this. There'll be an O-ring here. And there'll be an O-ring here. So as this moves past, it's got to cross this slotted hole here and seal up on either side of it, right? And then likewise, it's going to cross the outer exhaust hole and seal it up. So as this moves forward, it's going to seal up on the front here, and then it's going to seal up right over here. All right, and so what it creates is it creates a passage, and then the back is going to, we got that right. So their back is going to be right here, and so it will allow air to go through here, in there obviously, and then it's going to allow then air to go through here. I always get this messed up. All right, so we have 3 holes. 2, 3, and yet the first O-ring goes across there. It's going to seal up here, and it's going to cross here. Yeah, it actually crosses on the inside, and then outside. And so as it crosses one side, the air is going to go to this side, and it's going to block it off from the exhaust and allow the air to go up through this port. As it crosses back the other way, it's going to open up this exhaust and then allow air to go up to this port, and then exhaust out one of the front or backs. I know that's kind of confusing. On a 2 O-ring design, it has the 3 barb holes only, and you have an O-ring here and an O-ring here, and as that O-ring shifts forward, it's going to go over here and one right here, and then it's going to allow the air to go to here, or vice versa. It's going to go here to here and allow air to go to there, if that makes any sense. I know it's kind of confusing. Hopefully it's not too confusing. But the whole idea is that the O-ring, the sealing surface of the O-ring, or the granular O-ring sealing area, has to cross that port and seal up on the other side before the actuation or the complete actuation happens. If that makes sense. And then, but the interesting thing on the die is I always thought was kind of an interesting machining thing, and maybe there's a reason for this. Die, you can comment if you want to. Is they machine these oblongs in all 3 holes. In reality, this center, you don't have to have that oblong. Maybe their idea is flow. I just would have made a larger hole. But maybe it's, I don't know, machining, maybe it just made it easier. But the 2 outer oblongs, you could have used a larger hole to equal the same surface area or volume of that. I don't know, just weird. But really, it's the center one, the width of the center one, and the width of the exhaust ports. And since they have 3 exhaust ports on either end, then the total volume of all 3 of those will allow the air to pass more volume. It's kind of like a Venturi bolt. All right. So, my thoughts on the 3-way, well, let me put it this way. When I took this out of the box, and there's no lubrication on it, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I'm assuming they're going to want to use like a Dow 33 or the dye lube, which I don't have. I don't know if they're going to de-warranty since I didn't use that. But I put a little bit of Dow 33 on it. There's 33 light. And actually, before I did that, I just kind of slid it in here. And it's quite frankly, folks, it's rough. It is really, really rough. So I'm like, wow, I actually had a hard time pushing it in there. I mean, it's in there. I'm even going to, it's on the last O-ring. It took a lot of shakes to get that out. That was just holding the last O-ring. So closer inspection, and I'm going to put some photos up here while I'm talking. Closer inspection as I look down in here, and I'm not going to be able to get it to focus, but down in there, the bore, you may be able to see, you can see a little bit in there. I'll put some photos up. the bore machining is horrible. It's garbage. And I hate to say this. I love when companies come out and support autocockers. I'm an autococker guy, and quite frankly, I was really disappointed on the condition of the inside of this bore. It's even with Dow 33, and I'll put a little on there. Dow 33 light. Put a little doobie on there. Move this up. Because I wiped it clean, so I wanted to show it clean. Even with that, let's put it in there. Okay, that's in there. Let's put that through right there. Now, okay, it took 3 good, solid, just movements on it, and it would not. It's rough. You can feel how rough it is on the inside. I mean, it's bad. Will it seal? I don't know. We'll have to try that out. I'm pretty sure it will. But if you run really light trigger springs or lighter trigger springs, it just doesn't feel good. And that is, quite frankly, on an autococker, a nice trigger job is a smooth, consistent pull. Okay, should feel like hot knife through cold butter, just nice and smooth and goes right in. I mean, this is garbage. I'm sorry, Di. I hate saying that. It's just that's unacceptable, and I'll explain why it's unacceptable. Of the 4 manufacturers out there that are currently making 3-ways outside of Empire, and I don't know if they're still making the Empire Resurrection 3-way. There's maybe all old new stock now. You have Dye, Inception Design, Shock Tech, and Palmer's. Okay, the Dye, this one is $49.95. Okay, that's their retail price. Inception Designs is $49.99. Okay, Shock Tech $39.99, and then Palmer's is $51.47. So Palmer's being the most expensive of all of them. And then the next 2 expensive ones is the Inception Designs and the Dye. Now, the thing that kills me is, hey, I bought the $49 dies. I bought the $51 Palmer Pursuit quick switches. I've bought the Shock Techs. I like all 3. All 3 go on different gun builds that I do because they look different, right? The Shock Tech and the Inception Designs have a stainless steel shaft, okay? Not that the stainless steel is going to make it perform any difference. They may say, since this is aluminum, it's super light, it's going to move faster. Well, they're going to need that faster because it's really rough. At least this one is, okay? I don't know how the other ones are. I'm kind of curious to see if anyone else has any issues with it. I have not talked to Buddy over at FreeFlow, although I don't know if he gets them raw. He may be able to fine-tune them at the end. Maybe he's doing that. But my concern, even if I were to strip this and then I were to go in there and hone that out or try to clean that up, what happens is I start enlarging the holes. So I start taking away the benefit that Dye put into this. So really, it's poor machining, and that's sad for $49. And the other thing is sad. It's sad that they don't have this shaft of stainless steel because it's going to get damaged at the end. Someone's going to have this locked too tight. They're going to try to adjust the 3-way, and they're going to strip this in, and this is garbage now. So I hope they have spare 3-way shafts because that's going to get damaged. And then the other thing, for $49.95, I would like to see the milling cleaned up. You shouldn't see milling lines in this. You just really shouldn't. And I get it. It's COVID-19 season, and there's a whole bunch of stuff out there. You know what? Don't release it if you can't. You can't make a product that is worthwhile, especially for something that's $50. Let's just say it's $50. It's 5 cents away from $50. I lose 5 cents in my pocket every time I do the laundry. All right, but I kind of look at that I've done some research on what it costs to make things, and I know they make these by the whole bunch, and I know that the profit margin's got to be stupid, ridiculous for a Taiwanese part. They're not made in the USA, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying it's not made in the USA, so the profit margin on this is phenomenal. The barbs probably cost more than the 3-way. But anyway, that is really frustrating to me. So without testing this, and I can tell you, it's probably going to function fine. It's just not going to be smooth. It's just not going to feel good in the finger. And granted, am I going to think about that when I'm rattling off paint at someone at the field? Probably not. But man, I'll tell you one thing. For $49.95, if you're into looks and not, I'm going to say quality right now. And I'm really disappointed because Dye usually makes some pretty nice stuff. I really like Dye barrels, always have, shot them all the time. Really enjoy their barrels, and they make just a phenomenal product on that. Just disappointing. And the sad part is, you think that they would have learned their lesson. But people will continue to buy stuff that has proprietary parts, and this is poorly machined. Plain and simple. Sorry, Dye. I'm not out here to get you. I just think that I was really kind of excited and really let down. And I can understand some COVID stuff, but yeah, not so good. So anyway, with that, we're going to move on to the second part, which is the LPR. In the next video, Rockfire out.